Hey everybody, Derek here to bring another video for The Walking Dead, countdown to the start of Season 7. And what this video is going to be doing is providing some comic book scenes that I really hope make it into the 7th season, especially the first half. Some things I'm looking forward to about the season, as well as some concerns that I have about it, and things that I hope AMC avoids. If you are not caught up with the Walking Dead TV show or comics and you do not want to be spoiled in any way, then I would exit the video now and come back later, because otherwise you will be spoiled. Okay. So, when it comes to The Walking Dead, what we've been seeing as a general pattern is that it's been divided up in the first half and the second half in 8-episode arcs, where we've generally been seeing the group encountering something, and then something either ends or it begins, and then, it moves into a different part. We've kind of seen that ever since Season 2. Season 2's first half was them finding Sophia. The second half was, them dealing with Randall, Shane, other things, adapting the farm. Season 3, we of course have the prisoners. We have the governor really coming into fruition. And then, the season ends, that first part, with them starting the battle with the governor and so on and so forth. And if you look at every single season, you see that divide right at episodes 8 and 9. And the thing about Season 7 is that I think there will, in a sense, be a little bit of a divide, but it's going to be centered around the same thing instead of something different, and that being the Saviors. I think that the Saviors are going to be a season-long villain. And not only that, but they're going to be present throughout the whole entire thing. They're not going to be defeated by the end of the 8th episode. It's just not going to happen. So, obviously, we're going to be dealing with them. And there are a lot of things from the comic books that really makes this part exciting. I think that there's a lot of volumes in the comics that are very, very good. And I think that volumes 18 and 19 really do a good job of bringing the story together and building up to the eventual conflict that will eventually become the Saviors' War. And I have my prediction right now that these volumes are going to incorporate the first 8 episodes, and that by the end of the 8th episode, I think the war with the Saviors will be on in some way. That's my prediction right now. Now, what exactly is going to happen at this point? Well, I think a lot of things. Obviously, where we're at right now is issue 100, which is right at the end of the 17th volume. There's still one more issue. There's a little bit more that happens in volume 17. But at this point, what we're going to see is that Negan's going to kill somebody from Rick's group. We're going to find out who that is in this first episode of Season 7. And from there, we're going to see a very defeated group. We're going to see Rick confused. We don't know exactly what he's going to do. He has no idea what to do at this point other than to give in, because he doesn't want to see his people hurt. But at the same time, he is planning his revenge. He does want his revenge, and he's going to eventually get it. That's the idea, and that's what I think that he's working towards, as well as everybody else in the group. I'm sure they feel the same way. But it's not going to happen right away. And some of the things that happen within this part, one of them is going to be Negan coming to Alexandria and visiting it for the first time. He's going to see exactly what they have. And I think that he is going to take some of the supplies away from Rick's group. That is one thing that happens, and I think it's really, really important that that does happen, and I think it will. And one thing I'm really, really looking forward to, even though it's going to be painful to watch, is to see if Negan will give Lucille to Rick to hold. It's one of the big things that happens in the comic books when Negan arrives. he literally hands Lucille to Rick, and Rick is walking around with Lucille, the barbed wire baseball bat in his hand. And I think what that really is doing is it's like screwing with Rick's mind. It's really breaking him down mentally and emotionally, reminding him like, hey, here's the item that killed one of your people, and here I am, the one that did it, walking amongst you and taking your things and putting you down. And hey, and that's what Negan is about. That is what he does. And I'm very interested to see Negan. And I think that is something that the character himself, that I really think could make Season 7 Part 1 great. Something that I want to see is the character himself. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, in just his like 11 to 12 minute introduction at the end of Season 6, I thought was phenomenal. He really showed he was the guy for the role. And I think it was a very powerful introduction, and I hope they keep the quality of that character going. His charisma, the way he is very, insulting in many ways to people. He's not afraid to put people down, just speak plainly and openly, which I think makes him a dangerous person in general. It's one of the ways. But just to see the mind of this character, the psychology, the way that he is, I think is great. And I think that what Negan's goal is, which kind of like in the comics, while he does want to, in a sense, break this group down, he also wants to convince them and show them that he is a reasonable, nice guy. And that's the goal of Negan. And that's what sets him apart from other villains in the past. Other villains wanted to destroy Rick's group. The governor's group wanted to kill Rick and his people for the prison. The wolves wanted to kill the Alexandria community because that's just what they did. They destroyed things. The hunters wanted to kill Rick's group because they wanted to eat them. Most villains on the show have wanted to just wipe everybody out, not Negan. Negan wants these people to work for him. So by doing that, he has to convince them that he is dangerous, that he could at any moment snap and kill any of them just for breaking his rules, but that if they follow the rules, that he can actually be pretty decent and nice. And I think that in a sense that is what part of his downfall is, but I think that it is something that makes his character unique and great, and I really think the show has to do that. They have to present him in that way for Rick's group to listen to him, as well as to make him complex, because I think he really does have a lot of layers to him. And some of the ways that he shows his generosity, at many times, he lets people say things, sometimes he lets Rick talk back to him a little bit and says, all right, I'll take that, all right, but don't do that again, The big thing that he does, though, is that he returns Carl unharmed and alive, which is another thing that I hope happens in the comic books. What happens is, when Negan's group comes to the community to take its first half of the supplies, Carl sneaks back with them because he's upset that Rick gave in, and he wants to just take the battle to them right away. Carl actually ends up killing several of the saviors, and as a result, he really earns Negan's respect. Negan, as we know in the TV show right away, he identified Carl as somebody that he was really intrigued with, calling him the future serial killer. But he is very intrigued with Carl, and this moment solidifies that. And what is very interesting is that, he keeps Carl there for a while at the sanctuary. The actual sanctuary. Talks with him, kind of breaks Carl down a little bit, but also wants to learn more from him. And then, of course, when Rick realizes that Carl is gone, they end up actually going to the sanctuary because Jesus actually found out where it was. And they basically have another talk, and Negan gives Carl back unharmed. And in a sense, that's Negan's way of showing the group, hey, I could have hurt him. I could have easily poked his other eye out. I could have given him to my men, and they could have done whatever they wanted to do with him. I could have killed your boy. I could have done a lot of things to him, but I didn't. You know why? Because I'm a reasonable man, Rick. And that's what Negan's about. And that's the only way that he can really get his point across. He doesn't want to kill people, because if that's all he did, if he just killed everybody without having a reason for it, which would be the reason why would be a violation of his rules, then people would rebel against him. So I think that's really what he needs to do. And I think that back and forth, that kind of realization of the character, I think is really going to really impact the way that people perceive him, as well as the story, and might make some people very concerned about even going against him out of fear, and also out of, well, maybe this is the best way. We don't know. And that's another thing that I really want the show to do, and something that I am worried about with it. Because when all of this is going on, again, deep down inside, what do we want to see as viewers? We want to see Rick's group get up, get their revenge, kill Negan, kill his people, establish themselves back as the top dogs of the Walking Dead world. That's what we want, because we're viewers, we're emotionally invested into these characters, we like them, we think they're the heroes, we don't want anything to happen to them. But it's not going to happen right away, and that can be frustrating. So that's one thing that I think I, as a viewer especially, am going to have to get over, that the revenge is not going to take place right away, but as a result of that, the show still needs to be interesting. The show still needs to be able to intrigue us. And I think that one of the ways they can do that is by having people against each other. And I mean people inside Alexandria, maybe even the Hilltop, things like that. I don't want to see a unified group right at the start. And I think there's a very good chance that we're not going to get that. Obviously, I think that different people are going to be feeling different things depending on who is killed, obviously, because different characters have different relationships with each other. And I think that, obviously, if Carl was killed, that would impact Rick the most. If Glenn is the one, then Maggie will be the most impacted by that. If it's Abraham, then Sasha will probably be. So it really just depends on who is killed that determines who sits where. But I think that some people, like Carl, are going to want to just attack the Saviors right away. They're going to want to get up and, get their guns ready and go find Negan and kill him and his people. But Rick's not going to want to do that. I really don't think that's going to happen. And I think that's going to really upset some people. And I think that's really going to see some people disagreeing with Rick and maybe talking amongst each other like, well, do you really think that Rick did the right thing? Is this really the best move? And I want to see that. I really want to see a group that is feeling different things in this first half of season 7. Now, obviously, they're going to have to become unified by the second half if they really want to fight Negan. But I want to see people questioning Rick. I want to see people actually, having concerns about his leadership abilities. And that does happen in the comic books. A lot of people are concerned about Rick's decision to give in. And in fact, Rick lies to everybody and doesn't even tell them that eventually they're going to strike back. And that might have to happen in this season in order to make it exciting. Rick does not tell everybody, hey, yeah, listen, we're only giving in because eventually we are going to strike back. Because if Negan came there and saw people, kind of acting weird, then Negan might not be so convinced that he's taught them a lesson. And as a result, Negan might have to kill a few more people to really set his message to everybody. And that's why Rick lies to them and doesn't tell them that. And I think that is going to put some people at odds. And one person that it really does in particular with is Spencer. Now, whether it's going to be him or some other character, I'm not sure. but I really hope that somebody in Alexandria is really the front runner for being the person who really does disagree with Rick, and really does cause a little bit of tension in the community to make the season exciting, because I think that is something that really can impact the entire show, is that if people aren't together and really can't move forward together, then it's really going to cause a lot of drama, and it's not going to have everybody unified and ready for battle. And I think that that's something that really needs to happen in season 7 to keep the excitement going, rather than have a unified group and have nothing going on, because that is a very big concern, is that obviously they're probably not going to be fighting Negan right away. I don't anticipate anything happening until maybe the 7th episode, or maybe the 8th, unless it's Carl, if they follow the Carl storyline. Other than that, I don't see anything happening. I may be wrong, they may have a different plan, but I just don't see how it can happen. So obviously they're going to need something to keep the momentum going, and I don't think that walkers are the answer. We already had the big walker invasion in season 6. I don't think we want another repeat of that. So I think that dissension within the ranks is really something that I think can make season 7 really great, keep the tension going, and to really see if somebody is willing to, disagree with Rick enough to get this community in shambles, to really wonder if people can really rise up from this. And that is something that's going to be happening, I think, because we're not going to have the Hilltop, the Kingdom, and Alexandria right away wanting to go to battle, because Gregory sure as heck doesn't, and the group hasn't even been introduced to the Kingdom yet. So I think it's going to take a lot of time in the first half of the season to get everybody together, to get the plan together, and then start the battle. So I'm really looking forward to it, but these are some things that I really hope they do incorporate in the first half to keep it exciting and to keep everything going, because if they don't keep the momentum up, if nothing is really happening, then I really get concerned that season 7 part 1 may not be as exciting, because I don't think that they're going to attack the Saviors right away. That's going to take some time. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think that something is going to happen? Do you think my predictions are about right? What are some things from the comic books that you hope to see in season 7? Feel free to subscribe. I do have more videos coming, and if you have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, don't be afraid to suggest them. Have a very wonderful evening, and thank you very much for watching.